Hello, everyone, and welcome to Theory into Practice. I'm happy to have our next guest here. He's got a background in security, corporate security, but we both value leadership extremely on a high level. It's a priority in what we do. He's an author of his own book, and it's a great read for all those that are listening or watching. But I'd like to welcome Carlos Francisco. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I know we're going to have a great conversation.
Big Dan Scott, man. Listen, my voice is a little hoarse out there. We're gonna keep the energy up. But as you mentioned, it's been a crazy 8 weeks for me. I traveled 6 weeks in a row. My entire family is in town the past 2 weeks. It's been crazy. My little son Parker, it was his first birthday. We've been celebrating a whole bunch, maybe a little too much. But absolutely, we finally made it. We're here, man. We had to push this back a couple of times, which I am so gracious to you, man, for doing that last minute too. But excited, and like you said, it's about leadership. It's about how to approach things, in the world and the business that you're in with your team, and in life, and maybe even with your wife. See, I'm trying to rhyme too, Dan. But yeah, I'm Carlos, everybody. So good to see a lot of people know me as the corporate security translator. I spent 21 years with the Walt Disney Company. I was a cop somewhere in between there. And then I decided to come to California and been in California ever since. I was one of the directors of security for Super Bowl 50 down at the old Great America Complex. A lot of people don't know Levi Stadium was built in the parking lot of Great America. So that was a heck of a lot of fun. And then I found my way into tech. And now I'm with probably one of the largest companies leading us into the metaverse as a regional leader. Quite excited to be here. Wrote this little book, which we'll talk in between about it, Dan. And yeah, man, what are you thinking about leadership these days, Dan?
For me, I'm always thinking about leadership, but it's more for me is how do I encourage people to apply leadership in what they do every day. It's easy, and that's one of the reasons why the name of my show is Theory into Practice. It's great to think about things and know how to do things. It's even better when you put those into practice and you have actionable. You're actually the stuff you're learning, you're turning into an actionable, passionate desire to push people and make people better. And so that's where I am on leadership. And as far as where I am trying to promote people to step into more practicing leadership at higher levels is really wanting people like in emergency management, the practitioners of emergency management to really be stepping out of their comfort zone and becoming leaders in the field in where they stand now. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. That's why I'm bringing this leadership summit around. That's why I talk about leadership so much. And I know me and you share some of the same views as far as leadership goes. You're a leader in overall at multiple levels that I like to look to and say, that's definitely a value of leadership that I like to take away from. So when I reached out to you about it, it was definitely great to hear you say, absolutely, it's one of my favorite subjects. Absolutely, where do you stand on leadership?
Let me tell you, man, my master's in crisis and emergency management. So when you reached out to me, man, I was quite excited because I don't get to use my master's as much as I should, but I love the topic. And then you said, let's talk, you try to intertwine a lot of leadership stuff. And I go, oh man, this is it. I'm in. So how do I feel about leadership? I think we need more. We need more today. A lot of tough things have happened in the past 2.5, almost 3 years. And now we're getting back into the groove of working and operating once again. So we lost the human touch for a while, and there was a lot of weird stuff going on in the news, as everybody knows, and in the world, a lot of negativity. So today, more than ever, as we start getting in touch again with each other and understanding each other on that personal basis, leadership is it. And I'm going to talk a lot about my 21 years with the Walt Disney Company. And the reason for that is that I feel that a lot of my leadership skills or my approach to security, emergency management, and everything else that I do really comes from that foundation. And I have a quote to maybe start this thing out that I always like to use. It was by a little guy by the name of Walt Disney. And he said, you can design, create, and build the most wonderful place in the world, but it takes people to make the dream a reality. So whatever you're building, if you're building a consultant emergency management company, if you're building a consult emergency management program, if you're building any kind of program whatsoever, you have to remember what Walt said, is that it takes people to get it through. And you can't forget that as a leader. So I think for me, Dan, leadership starts right there, right on that saying that it takes people to make the dream come true or the reality come true. And in this case, it could be your emergency management program. It could be your new company. It can be whatever you want it to be. but Walt said it, and I think he said it best.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. Yeah, it takes people, absolutely, but it takes people, and I want to go just a little bit further. It takes people taking steps, taking actionable steps. They're actually doing something. They're stepping into roles of leadership. They're stepping into roles to actually make things happen. Emergency management in general has, in some ways, become a very passive and reactive profession when it should be very engaging, active, and forward facing. Should be very proactive all the time. That's what leadership is as well.
Yeah.
You don't just sit back and become a leader. You have to actively be a leader. You're doing things that make you uncomfortable, but you're doing it for the reason of being of service to others.
Yeah.
And that's what emergency management is. You're of service to others. Emergency response in general, you're of service to others. But emergency management, we have to be leaders in forward facing, and we have to followers don't come to the leader. Leaders go to the followers. That was a great quote to start with. He's definitely knows that they're a valuable resource, but when they become even more valuable is when they are doing what they feel is desirable and passionate about.
Yeah.
And I'm very passionate about emergency management. I know you are as well. You're also very passionate about leadership. We have to really be stepping outside and be very proactive in what we do.
Dan, you said something, man, that really strikes me, and I enjoyed that, man. When you get my brain going, it gets really exciting in here, man. But you said, you know what I want emergency managers to become, Dan? I want them to become thought partners within a business. I want them to be viewed so highly that they're so involved, right? They're so inculcated with the mission and the vision of the business as a whole that they're thought partners. Like, I really want an operations person to come to you and say, hey, what are your thoughts on this? I want a facilities person to come to you and say, hey, what are your thoughts on that? Because then you're more integral to the business than just that laid back waiting for things to happen emergency manager, right? I want you out, man. I want you like, there's a saying that we used to say at Disney, if you're not buying a new pair of shoes every 3 months, you're not working. Because we wanted people to be on the floor. We want people to be in the parks. We want people walking, shaking hands, hugging babies. We want you to be involved in the operation. Going to your partners, hey, how can I help you? Or if you understand their business that well, Dan, then you're already doing things for your partners before they even ask, right? So that's what I want emergency management, crisis manager. Look, I'm gonna add business continuity folks in there. I'm gonna add resiliency folks, any of those folks within this circle, right, of emergency management to do. What I want them to do is to start getting out of the office and just meet the people that you work with. We'll start there. But if you don't mind, we could start kicking off on some of this ideas. And I'd love to show my screen because I want people to be able to copy this down or maybe pause this video, Dan, and just maybe use this as a mantra to what they're trying to do in the future.
Absolutely. Please share away.
All right, let's do that. Here we go. Love it. All right, I am sharing because sharing is caring, Dan. Here we go. Can you see that screen there on that side?
Yes, it's visible.
All right, so really cool stuff here because I've always said if you wanted to be called a leader, right, you must be willing to give much of yourself. You have to be able to be led at times, and sometimes you have to be able to just learn from other people. You have to be able to be humble. Leadership starts there, I think. There's nothing better, I think, Dan, when you connect with the people that you're working with through vulnerability. More than anything else, when you're sharing with them a time where, you were not so good. And I think it starts there. But I created this kind of magic concept by using the word magic and then MAGIC to break down what I always felt leadership was to me. If you don't want to be a mentor and motivate others, I always say just go be a manager somewhere, find a company that only wants managers and go work for them. Because you should not be working, you're not going to be working for me, and you're definitely not going to be working for the major kind of international companies that are leading the way today, because we need leaders, like I said in the beginning today, more than anything else. So if you don't want to mentor and motivate others, forget it.
Oh, yeah. Mentoring is huge. It's one of the biggest things that I promote. And what it is, I feel like we don't have enough of mentors that are really leading the next generation of emergency managers into where they need to be, and training them and bringing them up to a level that they're comfortable doing the job. And I think you've actually had this conversation before as it relates to, you got the people coming out of school, right? And they say, oh, well, I got a degree in emergency management. That automatically makes me an emergency manager. That's just like someone coming out of the law enforcement academy saying, oh, I'm automatically a cop.
Yeah.
No, you have to go, you have to be trained in how to do the job. It's great that you went through there and got that degree and that education, but now you have to be trained in how to do the job, and you need a mentor to show you the way. So I love your point on vulnerability, because I honestly believe that's a big part as well. But vulnerability ultimately comes from trust and the willingness to trust others.
And I'll tell you something else, Dan. Sometimes I can envision the future. I'm a force here sometimes. And so this is what I think leadership in the future is going to be. It's going to be through that. And that's the only way you're going to be able to lead. There's a group of professionals that are coming up now, young professionals, that are not used to that militaristic law enforcement approach that a lot of the old time leaders come with, right? Rough and right in your face, and they're afraid to be vulnerable. They're afraid to give back to the community. They're afraid to share their kind of true colors, where they go home and they cry on their wife's shoulder or something. They don't want to share that, the folks. And I think leadership in the future, if you want to be a great leader, that's going to be the only way, just because of the changing tides of our business, our industry. So mentor and motivate others. That is the M in magic for me. And then the second one is assign trust. What I realize is that we're so afraid to give people tasks to do. I don't trust anybody to do it if it's not me doing it. When you don't give people opportunities to do it, they can't fail. And failing is part of growing somebody and mentoring someone, and then give them that leeway and the opportunity to do so under your guidance so they can become better. But when you're doing that to a human being, Dan, when you're doing that to me, you gave me that trust to get something done. All of a sudden, I'm part of something. And you get to a part in your career that money is not everything. And it's how you feel inside that makes everything just work. And so you have to be able, as a leader, to assign trust and step back a bit, man, because people can't learn.
100% agree with you. I think empowering others is huge, but it's one of those things too that trust someone else. Expect it. It's one of those things too that's easy. Just walk into a room and say, okay, everybody, but not to give any change. So being able to empower others and say, I trust you as well. I'm giving you a chance. But more than that, you're giving them permission to fail, as you mentioned. You're not just allowing them to fail, you're giving them permission.
Yeah.
Because they know at that point it's safe if they don't do it 100% okay, because they're going to learn from it and do it better next time.
Man.
So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, best lessons I ever had for sure is when I failed. I don't learn anything from winning. I usually, when I win, I just go grab a beer and party it up. But all I do learn is that I drank too much from winning and having a headache the next morning. That's all I've ever learned. And then the G in this magic thing is about guiding by example. And it's walk the talk, walk the walk, talk the talk kind of thing. It's so primitive, but so old school primitive. A lot of people don't know this, but I was actually born in Brazil. English is my third language. So I'm getting better at it. I promise you, Dan. I promise you. But guiding by example is so key. There's a thing at Disney that we used to say, don't pass it up, pick it up. If you're walking the floor somewhere, if you're walking at a park, what you will see is even the vice president of the park will pick garbage from the floor as much as that new 16-year-old that's going through their first job. And that's the key. But what that vice president is doing is guiding by example in really leading that kind of way. So the G for magic for me was guiding by example. It's one of the toughest things to do. It's a lot easier for me to tell my 3-year-old son, hey, listen to what I say, don't do what I do, kind of thing. In a corporate setting, in life, period, you really should try to guide by example.
Yeah, you want to be seen as doing the right thing, even when you don't think anybody's watching you. That relates to leadership, but it also relates down the line to so many other morals, values, ethics. You definitely don't want to be looked at and being seen doing something wrong. Whether or not you do something right 10 times in a row, that 11th time when you take the shortcut or when you pass something up, you do something you shouldn't do, that's going to be seen too. And they're going to forget the 10 things you did. And whether or not it seems right or not, you want to lead that example all the time.
Yeah. And that's why you need that vulnerability, because here in this point as well, Dan, when you're leading in that kind of sense, when you make a mistake, You have to be able to own up to it as well,
Exactly.
even as a big time leader. Because then people will see that vulnerability and they're like, okay, I can be that leader as well. So that's a piece of it. But yeah, so that's the G, guide by example and magic. The I is instill company values. What I like about this, the I in instilling company values is that, look, if everybody knows the mission and everybody knows the vision and everybody knows your key kind of your keys to your kingdom, how to get to it and how to act on it and act upon it, it'll be great. Disney, where I came from, there was this really cool thing they used to call traditions. And the first couple of days when you go to work at Disney, you don't go to the park, hotels, you don't do any of that. You go to Disney University, and you get to sit in round tables with everybody that just got hired that week. You get to sit on the same table with the VP sometimes. And you're playing games together and you're learning about the history of the company together. You're learning about the vision and the mission, and you're going through that together. Somebody, a seasoned professional, has been around for 30 years and a 16-year-old that's just starting, and they're exchanging ideas and they're learning from each other. See, that VP right now is learning what that 16-year-old really cares about in today's world. And the 16-year-old is getting their first kind of sense of what it is to be a VP. To me, it really sets that bottom brick laying of this house that you're about to build. It really sets it nice and straight and one level, and you get some things going from there.
I'm glad that's an integral part of your magic saying here is that it's more than just instilling values from the company. It's also instilling a bit of confidence, and self-realization that, hey, I may be the 16-year-old now, but I could become a VP.
Yeah.
And that happen. How often that happens with the road that they take, but you instill more of a belief that says, yeah, I'm starting at the bottom, but I think I can get to the top here. It gives them a sense of that self-confidence, which is amazing.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna go back to the M, right? And magic, the mentorship starts there. It's really interesting to see. And people get motivated right there. Like what you're talking about is that mentor and motivate. Kids are getting motivated. If I'm sitting next to the VP of, I don't know, the Magic Kingdom at Disney World, oh, that's the highest person in that. Oh man, I'm so cool right now. At least that's how I felt when I started with the company when I was 16. So the C, create a culture of openness, measure risk, and follow through. To me, this is so important. Openness is important because then it leads to that humbleness, which then it leads to vulnerability and all these other things. Allow people to be themselves, but you can't just whatever you do on the streets, come into work and do that same thing. Measure risk taking, to me, it goes back to assigning trust, right? Allow people to fail, allow people to do the things that they need to do. I think it's extremely important to that. And then follow through. One of the things that we sometimes miss is follow through. You say you're going to get back with someone, it's pretty simple, but sometimes we don't. If you say to a partner, hey, I don't know the answer right now, but I'll get you that answer. And then you never do. That relationship starts to get a little tore up, just a little thin slice at a time. It starts to degrade. So follow through is extremely important. If you say you're going to do something, it's about your character and it's about who you are. I think that's really important in the business. By the way, at least be honest enough, be humble enough, be vulnerable enough to come back to them and say, hey, I couldn't get what you wanted, but I didn't want to tell you that I was going to, because I didn't want to fail you. So I apologize. Maybe I can help you out next time.
Yeah, that helps build responsibility. But as someone who's watching that individual, it helps build trust as well. To say, I trust in him, I have faith in him, there's accountability there at some level. So yeah, you gain that by practicing that, being reliable and following through and following up. If you follow through, but ultimately following up to say, how did it go? Do you need more information? Do you need more resources? How can I help you? It helps go along the line of building that trust that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So that to me, how leadership it's kind of a slight format. But if you were to think about something every day that you get to your office and you just look at these 5 things, okay, this is where I'm going to operate. I'm going to operate right here every single time. And that's going to be, like I said, my mantra to how I'm going to be a leader. It has worked for me, but has worked for many of the big companies. And it really sets you up for what I think is an important thing, which is critical success. critical success of yourself, of your company, if you're a vendor, of the vendor company, if you're a full-time employee, your critical success. It really works for everybody, and it's a good way to start leading folks right there and then. But there are pieces to critical success too, and I have those as well. But I think that is the foundation of any critical success for any company.
I 100% agree, but I think too, we need to promote the individuals to really step up and be forward facing, be visible. How do you become visible?
Yeah.
How are you promoting not only yourself, what you do, how you do it, and how it benefits others? Because what people would like in marketing, right? When you get somebody to buy something, it's because they found a value in it for themselves.
Yes.
So how do we as emergency managers market what it is we do as leaders in the industry, market what it is that we do in such a way that they buy from us?
Yes.
It values me, like it brings value to me to be involved in the community. What are we doing? How do we do that? And that's through leadership.
Yep.
You got to brand yourself. You got to brand so people trust you. And
Yeah.
And I feel like that comes from a lot of what we're practicing here and what we just talked about.
Yeah, you said a lot of great things that you can offer to partners and everybody else. You forget about your good looks, Dan. All right, your good looks, obviously, buddy.
I appreciate this to get some right here.
Yeah, I know it. I knew it. But it's funny that you said that because I do have a partnership magic also, and that to me helps with my partners, the people that I'm working with, and the partners could be anyone, by the way, right? From your direct, going back to the Disney, say your direct 16-year-old employee to maybe the vice president of the company or whatever the case may be. So if you don't mind, I'll talk a little bit about how I feel partnership should be.
Absolutely, please.
All right, let me share the screen again. We'll pop this one up and let's see what we got. Here we go. Good times. Yeah, so partnership to me it's everything. It's literally my bread and butter. Yeah, I've really become good at doing this, and I love this aspect. I've learned to love the aspect of leadership and love the piece in partnership. So here it is. In partnerships, you got to lead without authority, like a lot of times. You're not the decision maker. And guess what? In emergency management, you got to go sometimes beg, borrow, and steal to get a little bit of money, or to get a little bit of support, or to get everything that you possibly can. And you got to do it with zero authority, zero. So here is the magic, I think, Dan, for how you can attain a lot of that in the partnership world. And again, I'm going to leave it up while we're talking through it because I want people to stop this video and copy these down. I want them to use it. So here's the magic. M is manage our partners' concerns. It's quite interesting about partnership and their partners' concerns. All right, I used to do these things called friendship walks. This is an easy way to explain it. In the morning before lunch, I would say either in or out. And what all that said to me was in, I am walking with the folks that work for me. Out are my partners that I walk with every single day. And I used to do these friendship walks. And I didn't talk about business or anything with my team or my partners. I just wanted to see how their lives are doing. And what I learned from that is a lot of their concerns. Mostly, I just wanted to be open and hear how their day was going. And I was able to then manage every single one of their concerns just by listening to them, right? And make it so I knew everybody in the park. I should be the security manager for Disney's Hollywood Studios. And if they bring up a concern or something, I'm like, hey, have you talked to someone in facilities? I'll connect y'all. And I started becoming this connector, right? And then I get phone calls. Hey, Carlos, you know anybody in foods that, I need 100 hot dogs for my team, man, just to do a little team thing. You know what I mean? Oh, man, let's introduce you to Chef so-and-so. So you start to become a connector. And I was able to manage their concerns. So one of the most important things on that friendship walk was really the start of this magic, which is managing our partners' concerns. And in emergency management, there are concerns. Go find out what they are. What is important for the business? There used to be a time when active shooters was like a big thing, Dan. And I would walk with my partners. You know what they were worried about? Power outages. And here I am trying to push active shooter because I'm a security cop guy. And they're like, no, how are you going to help me when we don't have power? How are you going to help me when we have a hurricane here in Central Florida? What do you think, Dan?
No, I don't think you talk too much at all. I think it's an important piece by taking the time to ask the questions and listen to the responses. That's the big part. Sometimes we presume a lot,
Yeah, yeah,
and because we see it in the news. It's a concern of mine, so therefore it should be a concern of yours. So that's a huge part in being able to understand what others are experiencing and thinking by asking and then stepping back and listening to what they have to say. And before you start making your recommendations, it's so easy to say this is what we're going to do, but
yeah,
when you hear from them, say maybe that's not the best approach. This
yeah.
is a better way to go about it. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, find out what they want first. It's easy to get them what they want first, and then you can sell your stuff later.
It's important. I
Yeah.
walk into a sales place, instead of you going to the customer and listening to what they're looking for, you start trying to push a big SUV top of the line thing on them. Instead, when he's there for a van, he's got a family. So being able to listen, what are you looking for? And then taking them to what they're looking for versus guessing and guessing. Ask them, what exactly are you looking for? Oh, I have it. Or no, I don't. Might be where you want to go. So
Yeah.
that's important. Absolutely.
I agree, man. So that's it. Manage our partners' concerns, and which it leads to anticipate our partners' expectations. See, what started to happen is that I would walk with them and they would say, oh man, I hate when so-and-so puts all these pallets right here because I can't put my merchandise there when I need it. If I'm walking with a retail partner. And I'm like, oh man, listen, I know him. I'll get with him real quick. So before, they weren't expecting that I was going to take care of an issue that they've probably been having for months. But I said, oh man, I don't. And then boom, and then you do it. So I was able to anticipate their needs a lot of times. I would see something and I would remove it out of the way, especially with my safety partners, right? Remove some things out of the way and I let them know. And they're like, oh man, wow, I appreciate it. I know it's not my job. I get it, but I wanted to anticipate that stuff. And that is the A in magic. And if you could start doing that with every business, food and beverage, pretty soon, again, Dan, food and beverage, front entrance, operations, retail, all of those things that come into a major operation, a major city operation as already, if you can anticipate what they expect, then man, you are a partner. Now you're in it.
Absolutely. And when they see that you're taking an initiative really to say, oh, I voiced that I had a concern and he went and did it for me. He went and got me the help I needed. He went and he helped me fix a problem that I seen that I was unable to fix by anticipating that the need was there. You see a level of concern because it looks like it's approaching that level of concern again.
Yeah.
And I can help head that off at the pass before it gets to a level of where there really is an issue. So yeah, I actually like seeing that very much, being able to anticipate, because what is that? That's proactive.
Yeah.
That's not sitting back and waiting. That's taking the steps in advance to anticipate what potentially could be a concern and helping to fix it, and being proactive in such a way that you're not, that's with leadership, it's proactive. So that's a great one.
Yeah, I believe so too. G, give value to their business. This is something that we tend to do, but not really. Like, I'll say nice things to people all the time. Look, if I see a nice shirt that you're wearing, I'm going to say it. Man, that's a nice shirt. We humans forgot to do that. There used to be a time, man, you're looking dapper today. That hat is sharp. Or man, look at that cool cat, man. You're looking like a cool cat, man. Makes people feel good. It's a very easy thing to do that we don't do it. I'm not talking about in the corporate world getting sexual or anything like that. It's just, oh man, I say to ladies all the time, those are nice pair of shoes. My wife would love them. Where'd you get them from? The lady feels comfortable that I'm talking to her about her shoes. She doesn't think I'm a creepo, but I'm giving them some respect. And so same thing in business, Dan, same thing in business. If somebody does something for you that makes your line of business better, if it makes it easier for your line of business, go ahead and publicly give them their value back to them. Let people know, hey, so-and-so, man, they did this for us. And this was awesome. It changed how we operated. And I'm a big fan of that. So giving value to their business, every little thing that they do that promotes something even positive, even if it has nothing to do with your line of business. If in my partnership walk, somebody told me of how great somebody from another line of business was, guess what I did? Hey, man, I was walking with someone and they told me about the thing that you did. And that is awesome. See, it didn't have to be directly from me or something they did for me, but I'm walking around telling people how amazing their business is all day long. I try to find things every day. So again, if I had this up on my wall, one of the things that I would do, right? Some people would carry coins in their left pocket and you have to transfer it to your right pocket. And you carry a couple coins in your left pocket. And before the end of the day, both of those coins better be in your right pocket because you gave two either lines of businesses or people, you give them their respect. You said something nice about them. So this is huge. It works in real life. It works with human beings. It should definitely work within the business, Dan.
That in itself is pretty much what leadership is about. It's not just about valuing others, it's about adding value to them.
Yeah.
So to be able to value people is great, but if you're not showing them that, they're not seeing that from you, then you're not really adding value to anybody.
Yeah.
So to be able to say that to somebody, yeah, I value people every day, all day. But if I've never taken an action to let people know that I value them, to show them I value them. So what you're showing there is amazing to be able to walk up and say, that's amazing. So-and-so said that your business is this, or that you did this. That's amazing. You're adding value to them.
Yep.
You're feeding them that day.
Right.
And yeah, that's amazing.
And guess what that partner is going to do, Dan? They might not come to you for everything, but they're going to know that you're a good person and they want to do business with you, right? That's what it is, man. So the I in this magic is inculcate trust and respect. Same thing. Look, I think if we trust and respect our partners first, regardless of how we're treated, in return, that thing will flip it around. You get a lot more with sugar kind of concept. I think if you do that, we start with the respect and we start by giving them trust. It comes around and you see how people start operating the same way as you, because I think as a whole, not everybody, all right, but I'm going to throw up a number there. 95% of people in the corporate world want to emulate the best person in the room all the time. And everybody knows who that is. And if you're it, then that's it. They're trusting and respecting you. And then you trust and respect them. And in return, they're going to start doing the same thing. That's something that we don't do enough of.
I think that goes back to a safety mindset. They feel safe around you. They feel safe that they can trust you. You're going to respect them. They feel safe emotionally. And yeah, you want them obviously to feel safe physically as well. But when they know that they're going to get trust and respect from you, they feel safe. They're not, their guard's not up. They lower they're more human. And it's huge.
Yeah. And so this is exactly what I'm saying. Trust and respect comes around in full circle and it works for everybody. These things are key, man. I wish people would be doing them more often than not. But here's the last one, which I talked a little bit before. It's about committing to only what you can do and follow through. That is extremely important to a partner. If you're not being honest and being able to follow through, be vulnerable at times with your partner as well, when you really can't do anything, let me know. And so I wrote a little something about this approach that I personally like to read every time I do this, just because. And so this is what really this approach is about. This approach focuses on mutual respect between partners and self-awareness, two building blocks of any decent relationship, professional or personal. Respect for our partners opens the door for partners to clearly communicate their needs. Self-awareness allows us to recognize our strengths and weaknesses, putting us in a position to provide realistic deliverables. Once we do these things, a good partner will follow suit and take these same steps, setting us up for our own success, right? So bring some of this magic stuff to all your partnerships. And I think you'll have some like real, truly magical results. That's how I do it there. So.
Yeah, and I like the last part there is following through with what you say you're going to do, actually doing what you say you're going to do. Because if there's one way to lose that trust and that respect is to not do what you say you're going to do. That definitely shows leadership in so many different levels, but how we can apply it.
Yeah,
it's one thing to be able to understand something, but to be able to actually do it, really shows the character of an individual and being able to be proactive as a leader, as a person, really to take that initial effort and show interest in somebody is a big deal. It makes them feel good.
And I usually say if it works at home with my wife and kids, it's usually that's where I test it. I test it there. And then I see how it goes, man. But it is true. Partnership is one piece of things. Leadership is the beginning of that building block and how it goes. I think you should have your own personal critical success points. The company should have their own critical success points. I think you should hire people through some critical success points. I wouldn't hire anybody that doesn't fit within my critical success model, because then I'm putting people, they're going to fail. They're not going to understand my culture, my mission, my vision, all these things that go on. And I just wanted to quickly cover critical success, if that's okay with you. And
Please.
here's something that, and it's my friend Goofy and I just hanging out back in the days. Young Buck Carlos there, man. By the way, same shirt, still right here, same shirt. One of the best ones ever, Dan. If you need a shirt that will last you forever and it looks good, right? And you look good while doing emergency management, man.
That's
Let
what
me
you
know.
want to do. Yeah, you want to look good doing it.
That's right, buddy. That's right. All right. So critical success. Again, this is an approach for everything, for your business, for your company, everything that you do. Management brilliant. Once again, I used to say micro is not magical. If you're going to hire micro managers to be micro, when you have so many amazing folks that you're hiring underneath them, you're going to kill their souls. So you got to get somebody that is just brilliant in management, which it should be leadership magic, really, but it fit within my M. So I threw that in there. A passion for service brilliance. Look, if you're not passionate about what you do and what you're going to do, if you don't have this background, and I can see that you have a background of being passionate about this thing, I'm not sure I want to hire you. I'm not sure I want to work with you. I'm not sure. So you need to be passionate about what you're going to be doing. Great partnering. If you cannot speak to amazing times where you partner with folks and you led right with zero power, then I don't think you could be in my business. It's going to be very hard for me to work with you. Immense accountability. You have to be accountable every single way of how you operate and how you walk in life and how you talk in life and how you do absolutely anything. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable when you make mistakes. All those things are extremely important. So the I for magic here is immense accountability. And then the last one is, again, consistency and communication. I always say consistency works with my kids pretty well. Communication works with my wife quite well. And if I don't communicate, man, forget it. It's over. But these are all great things that really works out if you're going to create just a kind of 5 bullet points on how you're going to take your company and create some critical success points underneath it. This is it. This is how I look at it, man. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on this one here, and then I'll leave it up for now, and then I'll close
No, I
it.
mean, I just want to say, I'll say one thing, which is that I think consistency is overall the most important part of it. And it's for everything we just talked about over this last 45 minutes, because if you can be great at all of those things we just talked about, but if you're not consistent in any of them, you're not going to build anything other than a reputation for someone who seems happy.
Consistency is like the most difficult thing for anybody, because you have to have such a drive. You can never give up. And I know that some days are tougher than others.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, 21 years of Disney, what it taught me was that whenever they say we're on stage, you're on stage. You're really on stage at all times. But I remember there were some difficult times, man. And at the end of the day, it'd be 12, 13, 14-hour days sometimes. I'd be beat, man. But because I was on 13, 14 hours a day, high energy, talking to everybody, making sure the guests, the partners, everybody was happy, right? In this happy kingdom. And man, when it was time for me to walk out and go home, I was just drained. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I could do this. Such a passion for what I was doing that allowed me the next day to come back full of energy, ready to go once again and remain consistent. But yeah, you just got to fight through those things sometimes as a leader. How you do it, it's up to you. I used to swim a lot, man. A lot of people don't know this, but I did the Ironman. So I swam, ran, biked. I used to take it out on the bike. I used to take it out on swimming. So you got to find a way to do that so you can stay consistent at work, consistent with your family, consistent, especially the past 3 years, the craziness, the madness. You got to find something to get you going.
Yeah, staying physically and mentally fit is huge, and it will make the difference between, as you mentioned, quitting and staying consistent in what it is that you do in your efforts. How passionate you are about something will really drive that consistency as well.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, Carlos, what I really would like to do now is I want you to talk about your book.
Oh yeah.
So what the viewers and the listeners could basically look forward to when they purchase this book from you, but also how people can get a hold of you and reach out to you potentially for networking and collaboration.
No, I'm on LinkedIn. Everybody, Carlos Francisco CPP. You're gonna find me on LinkedIn. I think I'm the only one for absolutely anything. If you have questions about it, I got my own little coin, which I showed you a little earlier too. Man, we got the coin going on, which I got to get you one of these. But I wrote this little book. So you want to get into corporate security, which really for me, there's leadership in here. It's all about folks that are coming from the fields that a lot of us come from: law enforcement, military, federal careers, how to get into corporate security. And it breaks down everything from the beginning to the end, from your resume all the way down to now you're operating 90 days in, 120 days in. Again, it talks about leadership and how to be a leader in here in the corporate world as well. Breaks down some security stuff like access control systems, camera systems, intrusion detection systems that a lot of folks that come from those businesses don't really deal with, but it gives you a look around that. You got another book coming out. So you want to start your own corporate. Right now, the name is So You Want to Start Your Own Corporate Program, Corporate Security Program. And so I'm about 20,000 words in, a little bit more to go, but excited about that. Corporate magic stuff that I talk about all the time. My buddy Scott Walker and I are putting together Corporate Security University. You're going to see a lot of stuff out on just small classes to get people to understand what corporate security is all about. I might call you for some emergency management stuff, man, to get in there and do some things. And then I'm a board member of Gratitude Initiative, which we reach out to law enforcement families that their parents have passed away while in the line of duty to make sure that the kids are getting educated, going to college, and we make sure they have the money to do so. I'm involved in a heck of a lot of things. Love everything that I do. And I truly appreciate this moment, Dan, for you giving me this voice to me and the stuff that I love doing.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you taking the time. I tell everybody your time is the most valuable thing that you have. And for you to give me some today, I truly am grateful for that. For those who are watching and listening right now, it's when you want to do something, but you don't know where to start. This book will show you how to get there. So it's a good how-to manual, but it also gives you a lot of great information in there that you could benefit from, and it'll value you when you get that job. Or when you start that firm, that you would actually have resources to fall back on. So absolutely look out for that book. There will be a link in the show notes and the featurette as well for those who are interested. I'll have a link to be able to reach out to Carlos on LinkedIn as well. But Carlos, thank you so much for taking the time. I found it extremely valuable. I always end up leaving our conversations having learned something and feeling better about where we are on our mindset of leadership and moving forward in whether it's corporate security, emergency management, or just overall business. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Theory into practice, man. You're doing some amazing things. Thanks for having me. And I continue doing what you're doing, by the way, because I know it's not easy. I'm on that side as well as with the podcast and everything.
The name of your podcast for those who
Oh, it's the Corporate Security Translator podcast. So you can find me. I'm on YouTube. All you got to do is just search the Corporate Security Translator or just Corporate Security Translator. You're going to find a podcast, audio. You're going to find a YouTube channel on video. Pretty soon we're going to have the Corporate Security University podcast that we're just about to record as well, starting in November. So Corporate Security Translator, you'll find me.
I'll make sure I include a link to that as well.
You got it, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you. For all those who are listening, if you found value here, please like, comment, and share. If you'd like to reach out to Carlos or myself, please do. We're both on LinkedIn. You can DM us and ask us questions or just connect with us overall. We're always looking to network and collaborate. I am Dan Scott. I will talk to you next time. Let's get better and let's do it together.